7, I thought I was going to be a basketball coach. It's what I wanted to do with my life. Went to college to learn to be a basketball coach and coached a few years at EKU, decided I wanted to be a head coach. But I wanted to come to Louisville. And there was only one job open, and that was at Shawnee High School. And no one had applied for the job. And I said, I'll take that job. I'll do that. And people said, you don't want that job. You know, they barely have a team down there. And, you know, what would you want to do that for? And I didn't know anything about teaching or anything. I just wanted to coach basketball at the time. That's what I wanted to do. And so it was about mid-July. I got the job, late July, and I went in and found a phone list of the players and called them, had them come up, had about 9 or 10 guys show up. And, you know, that year and what I learned that year from coaching basketball at Shawnee High School drove for the rest of my career about what I think kids need to be successful. And so what I found was 9 or 10 guys. They weren't college players. There weren't any college scholarships necessarily on the team. There weren't any great players. But what I found were 9 or 10 guys who were dying to be coached. They just wanted to be coached. That's all they wanted. And the coach before them had not given very good effort, had not done much with them, had low expectations for them. This is Shawnee. We're not supposed to be very good, so I'm not going to work you very hard, or I'm not going to have high expectations for you. And I went in there and said, you know what, I'm going to expect you guys to do the same things that I would expect a college team to do, and the players to do, and work hard, and learn fundamentals, and show up every day, and have good sportsmanship, and play with passion and energy and all those things. And you know what? They responded. They responded to me. And and every day after practice, I had a little red Honda Civic. Old Honda Civic, and I no telling how many board policies I violated. I would pile about 7 of them in the car because we didn't have a bus or anything. And I said, hey, it was 20 years ago, so I think statutes of limitations have passed. But I piled them in that car because I didn't know. They said, well, we can take the TARC home, coach, if you get us TARC tickets. I said, get in my car. So I drove them all over the west end of Louisville. They lived all around, and I had this little path. I took them home. See you tomorrow. And on Saturday morning when we had practice, I didn't expect them to just show up at the gym. You know what I did? I had to go knock on their door. Come on, wake up, let's go. Time for practice. Same 7, I'd put them in the car, and we'd drive to practice, have practice, I'd drive them home. And you know what? They responded. I'm not going to say we won the state championship that year, but the year before they were 2-26. And then we went 14-14 that year that I had them. Ended up being one of the most successful teams they had in a long time. Still remember the time. At that time, Iroquois was number 2 in the state. We beat them. And the kids just, you know what? They responded. They responded. They wanted to be coached. That's what they wanted, and they wanted to learn. And all they needed was someone who pushed them and made sure that there were high expectations for them. So that had the same beliefs that I did, which is every single kid can be successful. No matter where kids are from, you can have a positive academic learning climate. We don't need to have low expectations for a learning climate just because the neighborhood where kids are from. And we can have great instruction in the classroom, even though 85% of the kids at Doss High School came from poor neighborhoods. And many right up the road from here, and had 2 successful years, and it would keep doing it and might do it again. But got a call last, as I say, you know, God works in mysterious ways, and I was in the office and about to go out in the hall and get after some kids a little bit and say, time to do what you're supposed to do, and got a phone call and was asked to apply for the superintendent position here at JCPS, the interim superintendent position. So I sent in, I had some sleepless nights. I had to say a lot of prayers. Do I want to do this or not? Because I do. I feel like I'm a school guy. I'm supposed to be in a school. But I also felt at JCPS, we were at a point where needed significant leadership.
Yes.
I had noted that. I had seen surveys of teachers, parents, kids, certified and classified staff, and knew that we needed some guidance and some direction. And laying there one night in bed, wide awake, probably 2 in the morning, thinking, what in the world am I considering doing? I decided that if not me, then who's it going to be? And so I made the decision that I was going to go after it. Was fortunate that I got the position after talking about my beliefs about education and what I believe should be happening in schools. And so since that time, a couple days later, I was offered the position. And so now I'm acting or interim superintendent. So I don't know how long that will be. And I tell people, whatever time period that is that I'm superintendent, whether it be 6 months, 9 months, or multiple years, that I will give everything I have to the kids of Jefferson County and the families of Jefferson County to make sure that we have great schools. So, I've touched a little bit on these, and I want to make sure that I talk about some of my main beliefs. So I won't be able to cover them all, and I'd be happy to answer questions at the end of that time. But first of all, just want to talk about some of the things, my beliefs about education, and my beliefs about some of the ways we need to go with JCPS. So now I'm the superintendent. We have 7 board members, Dr. Wilner being one of the 7. And so they decide on policy and major programs that are passed. So that's not just solely my decision that there's a governance model there. But I essentially believe that I'm the leader of the district and have to provide that leadership. So first and foremost, I've said this, I believe the most important thing with our schools, more than anything, is a healthy, positive, academic learning climate. Too often in our urban schools, not just in this city, but across America, in our urban schools, especially our poor minority schools, we have a belief of low expectations, where not just with kids low expectations, but also with adults low expectations. And we cannot allow that. And so first of all with the adults, because I always start with the adults. Right now, currently across America and in JCPS, in our most challenging schools, and I say challenging, usually that means poverty, because a lot of challenges when it comes to teaching come with poverty. And I don't believe it's about a color of skin or anything else. I believe it's a poverty issue. But it becomes very challenging in schools with high poverty. And so often they are considered to be failing schools, priority schools, persistently low achieving, whatever you want to call those schools. So first of all, expectations. We have to find ways to get our experienced and high-quality teachers in our schools where we have high concentrations of poverty. And so that is not the case right now, not just in Louisville, but in schools across America right now. If we are expecting teachers to do great things, we cannot expect brand new teachers with very little experience to be in our classrooms in schools throughout our communities with high poverty and challenges. So that is something we're going to have to work on. But expectations, and I think anybody would tell you that what I expect out of adults and teachers, first of all, in schools, I don't care what kind of school it is, first of all, the highest levels of professionalism that we can possibly provide to every single student. And so many of our kids do not have the opportunity to have models of professionalism. And so they need to see professionalism and expect professionalism out of adults in our schools.
Right.
And so many times I was seen as, why do you wear a tie every single day to school? I was a principal for 10 years, 175 days. 1,750 days, I believe is the math. I wore a tie every single day to school. And so some people would say, why don't you loosen up a little bit? And I said, because I think that might be the one day that I get to demonstrate professionalism to these kids. Maybe it's the one day that I get a chance, a kid, to make a difference. And I'm not going to dress down on that day when I have the chance to make a difference for that child. So it's not just about dress. I don't want you to think it's about just wearing a tie. So a teacher can be successful without wearing a tie or business attire. But there is something about that, a message that it sends. Second of all, being there every single day for our children. Also, and I said this time and time again for our teachers, the type and the quality of instruction has to be high quality and different than traditional instruction. And so what I believe is we have to engage our children in instruction that is meaningful to them. And we have now a different generation than when I was in school. I didn't have this phone in my pocket. I didn't have headphones. I didn't have, you all remember the TV I had 4 clicks on it. And 3 of the channels you might see, and the 4th one you had to move the antenna around to get it. My dad would yell for me to come in the room like I was in trouble, and I'd come running in and he'd say, turn the channel. We didn't have a remote, there was no such thing as a remote control. So, it was just a different day and age. And so I tell our teachers, whether we like it or not, it is a different time and we have to engage kids in a different way. And unfortunately for many of our kids, especially in high poverty areas, and I say, if you're talking to a freshman in a high school about college right now, and you need to do this for college transcript, right now, it's very difficult to see that connection as 4 years away from now going to college. And so instead of just trying to convince them that they need it for something else, we need to provide a type of instruction that engages the student, that makes them passionate about learning. The other thing we need, I'm a believer in passion. I believe if you're not passionate about something, you will not be successful at it. If you don't have energy in something that you do, you will not be successful. There is no way around that. I could see the energy up here and the passion up here, and so a lot of success with that. Talked about coaching. If a team isn't passionate when they come out to play a game, they're not going to win the ball game. It's the end of story. So our job is to make sure that the instruction that we provide leads to energy, passion, interest out of kids. We will not get that through worksheets and textbooks. We will not do that. And so that is so important that we provide that type of instruction. And every single day when we go into our classes, my dad used to tell me when I was coaching, he said, son, he was a basketball coach too. And he said, son, if you're going to get that team to be passionate and play hard, you got to give them a hook every single day. You got to give them a reason why. You just can't tell them it just because you need it. You'll need it somewhere down the road. You got to give them a hook. And so I learned that, and I tell the teachers the same thing. If you just think kids are going to come sit in a desk, listen to you, take notes, and take a test, that's not the type of instruction that we want. So we want kids passionate. We want kids engaged. We want our teachers being professional with high expectations. I tell our teachers, I expect you to teach every minute of every period of every day. So when a kid walks in a high school, they have 4 years. 4 years, that's all. 175 school days. Walk in the math class, you got them for 50 minutes for 175 school days. We got them for 4 years. That's about 1 million minutes. That's all we have them for. That goes by fast. At the end of that time, that's the end of their guaranteed education. And if we don't do it, then who's going to do it? And so providing that type of education for our kids, teaching every minute of every single day, being responsive to our students and professional with high expectations. I tell in a school, if adults are supposed to be in a spot to monitor kids, I expect you to be there 175 school days every single day, not leaning against the wall, but talking to kids, encouraging kids at Doss. When I first got there and I had class meetings, and I said, you deserve just as great as education as any other school in this country. No matter where you're from should not determine what type of education that you get. And so we worked hard to make sure, A is kids know exactly what the expectations are for success. B is to know that it's clear that yeah, we have supports for you, so there's high expectations for behavior, but there's also high support for you too. And so, you know, we're going to provide that support. We're going to be there every day. I told our board members when I interviewed, the most important thing about a behavior in a school is, number one, the instruction in the classroom. That's the first thing, the quality instruction in the classroom. Number two, what happens before there is any discipline event. So have we been clear with the kids about expectations? Are adults where they're supposed to be? Are they doing what they're supposed to be? Are we acting every single time a child does not do what they're supposed to do, and not letting our expectations slide down? That is very important, that we're talking to kids, that we're consistent every single day. And then afterwards, just as a parent would do, we say, understand you screwed up, we still love you, come on back in, let's learn a lesson from this, and let's get back into a class and make sure you're successful. So I have been one of the things that has been so important to me in 8 years at J-Town High School and 2 years at Doss is to make sure academies of Louisville that we're rolling out right now. And every single kid in every one of our high schools is on a pathway that leads to a career and a job. So some of them might be in the skills trade, some of them might be in manufacturing, some of them could be in medicine, pre-medicine, nursing, some could be in finance or IT. But in the end, a kid spends 3 years in these classes, they walk out with a certification, they've actually had the opportunity to job shadow and work in a local company, and get that experience doing that. Then they walk out the door and we give them this option. So I hear a lot of people say college isn't for everyone and career, but I think we can offer both. So what if we had programs that aligned with our local companies, and we have some out there but not enough, with our local companies like GE, like Ford, who are looking for workers right now. Right. And we had kids that walked right into those companies and had jobs that made $16 to $18 an hour. And we told those companies you're going to pay for them to go to school at JCTC at night. And so you're going to have the opportunity to do both. And we can do that. College does not have to be go off to a 4-year campus and rack up college debt and come back and not necessarily possibly have something. But what we can do is have careers, jobs, working on college at the same time, get an associate's degree, possibly move on to a 4-year school like the University of Louisville, and whatever company that you are with, you can end up being the boss in that company. And so giving kids that pathway to do that is so critical. So a couple big issues that I wanted to touch on here in JCPS. Obviously, you all know student assignment is a big issue. And I won't step away from that. I faced the firing squad yesterday from our State, Senate, and House Education Committees about student assignment. We have to take a deep dive and look into student assignment, and I want everyone to know this. First of all, I do not believe it is an issue for our state legislature to decide. I don't believe that politicians who are all out in the state of Kentucky should be telling people in Jefferson County where their kids should go to school. But what I do believe, it is an issue for our community to decide. So one superintendent and 7 board members, we cannot make that decision. We can now. In the end, we have to make that decision. But we have to do it with significant community input. And what I have found in my 2.5 months, this community is very divided right now in many ways, but very divided about how we should assign our students to go to school. And I have seen that firsthand, that division, And it is going to be a very difficult road for us to make some real determinations about student assignment and what's best for our kids. And right now, there is little doubt, we will say this, there is a significant achievement gap in our public school system, as it is in most public school systems in urban schools across America, between African American and white students, between Latino and white students, between poor or high at-risk and non-at-risk students, special ed, non-special ed students. So we have some significant achievement gap, and I won't hide from that. We have that in JCPS. Now, there is not an easy answer to that. I want to be clear. That is a very deep issue for our entire society to deal with. And anyone says that there is an answer for that is leading you down the wrong road. There is not just an answer. There's a lot of hard work that has to be done in order to reduce that achievement gap and hopefully one day eliminate it. But it's real tough work. I'm going to tell you that right now. I've been in a school for 20 years that has been over 50% poverty. So I know that's very difficult work. So we have to decide how we want to move forward. And specifically, how students from our poorest communities in this city, how we want to assign them to schools. And so that is a community issue that we have to be clear. We have many cities in this country where there is extreme high concentrations of poverty in the urban core, in the high minority areas. And so that is what Jefferson County has tried to stay away from for many, many years, and have diversity in our schools, and also have a degree of choice in our schools so that parents have a choice of where they send their children to school. But what I would ask the next superintendent, 7 board members, we need community input. We are asking for our community to get onto a committee that will probably be 12 to 18 months. And I'm not so sure the legislators like the answer of how long that would be. But this is not a decision that can be answered in a short amount of time. There needs to be research. There needs to be community conversations like this. We need to hear beliefs and opinions about it. We need to make sure that in 18 months, when we make recommendations about changes to student assignment, that these are changes that will take us forward and make us a better district. So I would ask that if you have a passion for that and you have a belief, either A, join our committee, which I can give you information about how to do that, or B, we will have community conversations and forums in all areas of our town. Please join us and make sure that you become a part of that. Another big issue, our facilities. I've talked about it significantly. So we have facilities right now that are falling apart. And we have work to do on our facilities. So I won't dance around this topic. We have a high school pretty close to here, Shawnee High School, that is a beautiful building. It is a beautiful building. But we have a 3rd floor that is shut down and it hasn't been renovated in a long time. We can make that building and that school a center for education in West Louisville. I believe that. I believe that we can put great career and technical education programs at Shawnee. I don't believe we've had an effective strategy for Shawnee in 20 years. In 1997, when I was at Shawnee High School, the same strategy existed. We have this flight program, which is a great program, and we hope to attract students from all areas of town to come into this flight program. It's a great program. There were 800 students at the time at Shawnee. 20 years later, it's the same strategy, and there's about 450 students at Shawnee. I believe we can have a great facility down there that is top-notch. I believe in climate and culture. I've said it many times, positive climate and culture in our schools. A big part of that is kids walking into school and feeling proud about the building that they're walking into. And so if they walk into a building that's falling apart with graffiti, with broken windows, with a floor that's closed down, with desks with writing on it, then they will act accordingly. If they walk into a building that is shiny and bright and has great programs, and there's a career and technical education program that they walk into, and it's a top-notch facility where they get to work in top-notch equipment, whether that program is engineering or welding, doesn't matter, anywhere on that spectrum, but they get to work in a top-notch facility, kids act accordingly. And my goal will be that parents in West Louisville raise their hand and say, I want to go to that school. That's where I want to go. And not try to avoid it. And I think we can make that happen. We can also do that with our elementary schools. And so most of our elementary schools in our poor areas of town are very old. And we have to do some hard work as a community to decide whether we are willing to put in the investment to make our facilities top-notch for our children. But I believe this wholeheartedly. Education is the most important thing. So if we want to reduce crime in our city, we put dollars in education. We want to reduce the amount of money we spend on prison, we put it in education. If we want to reduce the amount of money we have to give out in many ways, we put our money in education. So we have to make that commitment to do that, and I think that we can be successful. And so that's a big, tough issue that we're going to have to face as a community, and whether we are all willing to come together, no matter what political beliefs we have, to do that. And so we are committed that, at least I am committed, that we're just not building schools in the East End as the population has moved east, and we're not just going to build schools in the East End. We probably need some. The housing pattern has changed. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we invest in West Louisville and Southwest Louisville and put money in our facilities here. And Newburgh also. I say that all the time, and she and Newburgh also. I'm sorry. So in Newburgh also. Intent. I am very intent on ensuring that we have representation in our schools with teachers and staff members from minority populations. We will be hiring a person in the very near future whose sole job 24/7 will be to monitor, evaluate, make sure that we are considering equity in every single hire in JCPS, that we are implementing programs to attract teachers from minority populations into our schools, because right now our minority teacher population is very low. And so we have to do that, and so we have to come up with innovative ways, because right now they're not coming out of our colleges. So we're going to have to find innovative ways to make sure we do that. We will have a person that is doing that. Second of all, we have to make sure that we have recruitment programs that attract administrators that are minorities too. So we are committed to doing that, and we will have a person in that position in the very near future. Finally, we believe in parent engagement and making sure that parents have the opportunities to be engaged. So I was at Dawes High School as a principal, and I did not do a good job at this in my 2 years there. And the reason I know this is because of when we would have parent-teacher conference nights and open house, there weren't many people there. And I said, well, I'll serve dinner, and still didn't have many people there. But then I realized if a parent was going to come from the West End, there was no TARC stop at Dawes, and the closest TARC stop was at the Frisch's on Dixie Highway. That was about a mile down the road. So even if a parent wanted to come there, how would they come there?
All right.
And so we have to do everything we can to make parent engagement as convenient as possible, especially for working families. We are committed to doing that. We are committed to helping schools do that and coming to the community. At our next board meeting, we will be signing a lease with the California Community Center. That will be a satellite central office. So if you know the California Community Center, we got a lot of work to do on it, because I was committed. We're not just going to throw a desk down there and and a telephone and someone sitting there. We are committed to making it nice, and we are going to put some funding into that to make that a nice facility. But what we wanted to have the opportunity to do was to make it very convenient for parents to engage in their child's education. So anything they would come to central office for, they're going to have the opportunity to go to the California Community Center and do the same thing. We will have computers available with district personnel at certain times during the week. So if a parent wants to come learn, how do I use Parent Portal so I can check my child's grades and attendance and behavior, we'll have someone there to meet with them and coach them through that process. We will also have, eventually as we develop this, the goal will be that we have tutors and homework tutors, because families want to come there and there's activities there. We want to be able to meet those needs for our kids also, and make it very convenient for our families to do it. Our long-term goal will be at the site on Broadway that I think will be the future Passport site. It will be even more convenient, but that's kind of a long-term goal as we go forward, that we would have an entire central office facility there. So it's one step at a time, but the great news, there's a meeting room in the basement also that schools and principals that are innovative won't have to call around to find, let me find a spot that might host me, a church, a community center. We have a spot in the basement. So if a school wants to come down and bring their teachers down there, all they have to do is email our central office and say, we'd like to reserve that room on this night, and we're going to have it. We're going to bring our teachers down there, and community parents can come in and meet with teachers right there and not have to go out to the school. So we're going to continue as long as the board passes that lease next Tuesday. So I have a feeling they probably will. But once again, it's their vote on that, but we are making that recommendation. We wanted to have it by October 1st. The lease will be signed. Once that lease is signed, we're going to work, and because we want it to look nice. We really do, when people come in there and know that it's Jefferson County Public Schools. So in the coming weeks, that will open up, and we will bring more information to the community for that. So I will close by, and then I'll answer questions that you have by saying I'm proud to do this job. I'm proud to serve the people of Jefferson County. I am not someone who looked from another city, from somewhere else, for a job that was good for me. I'm committed to JCPS. I've been here for 21 years. I'll continue to be here till I retire, and I'm committed to making this a great district with great opportunities for every single one of our 101,000 students. Thank you for having me here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.